Was a wonderful experience, almost a culminating experience, because I and McCormick Center have been pushing for understanding how important leadership is in the quality of early childhood settings. And so this recognition of the power of leaders was very gratifying, personally and professionally. Well, I would hope that there would be classes that might tune in to the event, live streamed on YouTube, or being present face to face. There were a number of students that were in the audience, and I think that's one of the ways that participating in that event was an exciting opportunity, because it was more than speaking to the people who were present, but being able to convey the message about the power of leaders to really impact child outcomes in early learning centers is something that needs to be more widely disseminated. Practitioner's voice is so important in understanding what's needed in terms of the core knowledge that we need to expect from our leaders, our program leaders. And what I heard from the practitioners yesterday was the principal was really honest about how he had never had any experience with the primary grades or pre-primary. He was a middle school teacher, and so understanding how young children learn and what that learning looks like, what the teaching experiences look like, what the evaluation or assessment of children's knowledge and growth looks like, was something he had to learn on the job. At the same time, the two practitioners who worked in childcare settings, they spoke about needing to adjust to an environment with blended funding in order to have the kinds of services that they wanted to provide for kids. That meant that they were blending the requirements of different funding streams, one from the Department of Education, another from Head Start or Early Head Start, child care subsidy programs, as well as bringing in perhaps some paying families that were mixed income for those centers. That takes a different skill set that isn't addressed in preparation programs. So I heard a lot of information from our practitioners on the panel about what's missing from how we prepare program leaders now. And while my colleague Christy Cowers was eloquent about speaking to the need of providing professional development with different leaders from different sectors, I think that while that is extremely important and valuable, it isn't at the expense of the preparation that needs to take place. Well, there's a couple of things. I think that understanding that program leaders need a mix of skills that include pedagogical leadership, administrative leadership, and something that we've described as leadership essentials at the McCormick Center. In other words, a whole leadership approach to their preparation. That would go a long distance towards solving the problem of coming into the job and not really knowing how to manage, whether it's dealing with the right assessment tool or how to support teachers with using a curriculum, or how to engage with different funding streams and different requirements. All of that is important, and all of it should be included in that core competency work. But I also think that there's a need for what the kind of cross-sector professional development that's ongoing, where those who are working in schools and in centers and in Head Start programs come together at the community level to really implement a cohesive plan for moving a community forward, for transitioning children in and out of programs in a cohesive way, sharing information with parental consent, family consent, but being the most effective in making sure that whatever gains children have can be built on at the next level. And that requires close communication and working together towards a shared good. Well, it gets back to what I believe with my whole heart, which is leadership really matters. And so we need teachers to be really at the top of their game and being able to understand children's development and how they learn best. And for teachers to be at the top of their game, then leaders need to know how to support those teachers, but they also need to know how to run their businesses. And so what I believe is that those core competencies that we talk about are a combination of competencies that relate to pedagogical leadership, how to support teachers to be the most effective teachers possible, and administrative leadership, which is about creating the organizational conditions so that teachers learn and have opportunities to learn from each other. And ultimately, we have organizations that are learning organizations. Children, families, and staff are all learning at the same time. Well, we were both tasked at the same time with looking in and researching the demographics about leadership workforce. So both New America and the McCormick Center were working at understanding what are the differences between the pre-service preparation and ongoing continuing service professional development for leaders in all sectors. So principals in schools, directors in childcare and Head Start and pre-K programs. It made a whole lot of sense for us to work together. And so our goals were really aligned. We were able to collaborate, to divide and conquer, as I think Laura said yesterday from New America. And that idea is that New America was responsible for getting the information relative to licensure issues for principals, and the McCormick Center was responsible for getting the information and all the data sources related to the center-based, community-based leaders. So it was pretty interesting that it was possible to use the same data, but to have slightly different findings and use them in different ways. So one of the things that was different was that we were using that data to actually create rankings for states about the degree to which their policies really promote excellent leadership development and skilled leaders. And so as a result of that, we needed to look at what was the minimum that was being required that was contained in those policies. Whereas New America's approach was more to look at a comparison between public school pre-K and pre-K in centers. So they were really making a comparison comfortably about what are the minimum requirements for large centers. And oftentimes in licensing, childcare licensing regulations, there would be huge variances in the educational requirements based on the size of the program. Well, I want to give you also its context, if that's okay. The L.E.A.D Clearinghouse really developed from some work around the L.E.A.D Early Childhood Collaborative, L.E.A.D standing for Leadership Education for Administrators and Directors. We came together with several organizations and individuals. We came together because we were concerned that with so much attention on the needs of the teaching workforce that we were ignoring the needs of leaders. And so the overarching goal of this collaborative is to identify and close the leadership gap. So the L.E.A.D Early Childhood Clearinghouse came out of that collaborative's goal setting and was our initiative funded through the McCormick Foundation to really identify what does the leadership workforce look like across states and across sectors. No one had done that before. So there might be segmented reports about the qualifications of leaders in schools or Head Start leaders, but there was nothing that looked across these different settings where young children are for vast portions of their day. And we knew that this was a really important gap to address. So that's the context. Our goal with the clearinghouse was to shed light and really focus attention on these differences between how leaders are prepared so that those gaps could be closed by policymakers. So we quickly found out when we did our data search and looked for published reports about the qualifications pre-service, the ongoing requirements for continuing professional development, as well as the institutions that provide leadership development. As we collected that data, it became clear to us that what we really were looking at were policies in law or administrative rule that determined the qualifications. So we felt it was necessary to create a way to be clear and transparent about those policies. They are not written to be clear. Sometimes it was really difficult to figure out what is minimally required, because a policy might start, this is especially true with licensing standards, might start out by saying a director have a bachelor's degree in early childhood, or a bachelor's degree with a certain amount of education in early childhood, or an associate degree in early childhood, or an associate degree in a related field, and so many years of experience plus some ongoing professional development. I think you get my point. There are some states that might have 11, that was the largest number, different alternatives. And oftentimes those alternatives were based on the size of the program. And so ultimately making it clear, getting through the murk and letting folks know what is the bottom line about what a director of a licensed child care center or a director in a community-based program with state pre-K, or what are the qualifications in a state's quality rating and improvement system. All of those things were made clear through ranking states on their policies. Another goal is for this to be a living, breathing, organic document. So it makes the data sources, these original data sources, as easy as a click for people doing research, writing reports, for policymakers, legislators, leaders themselves. So all of the source documents are a click away by looking at the information that's on the clearinghouse, all in one place regarding all of the different sectors. We intend to keep that up. Our goal is to keep this going and to annually report on whether there's changes in the benchmark status having to do with states and their policies. It's not always easy to find this information when you want it. So if you're an advocate or a researcher, a student, or a legislative aide, having one go-to source where you can find this information and know that it's current and kept updated should be a really valuable resource. We think it's important at the McCormick Center for this information to be readily available to people and to have the rankings adjusted every year and published so that there is this understanding of how states are doing in improving the qualifications that they require of the leadership workforce in early childhood. That leaders in every setting where young children spend a big portion of their day really matter to the quality of the experiences children and families have, and that qualified leaders are based on some minimum qualifications, a bachelor's degree at a minimum with specialized knowledge in early childhood, child development, and program administration. If we could all agree to those baseline foundational knowledge and skills, then I think we really feel the Clearinghouse has made a difference.